I just bought the cheapest clean title M3 and we're gonna flip it for max profit in just 24 hours. Now, I narrowed it down to an E36 M3, you know, the classic, and they all need tender loving care, an E46 M3, the GOAT, and one of Trav and my personal favorites of all time, and an E90, a car that we've already owned and featured on this channel. But I thought that we could make the most money on a lightly crashed E46. And you heard me right, folks, we're gonna take just 24 hours to turn it from this into this. So, what does she look like? Well, not great. First off, it doesn't actually run. I bought it from the previous owner's dad, who said it's been sitting for at least a year, and you can easily tell that might be an understatement. Now, this camber in the front, let's just say this is where most of the damage happened. If you take a look at it, that is an angle I didn't learn in elementary. You can see that there's some water damage in the turn signal. The paint is obviously needs a full refresh, as well as this roundel, which will be fun to replace. I think we're gonna have to do a full detail on it, but that's kind of the least of our worries right now because, well, although she's pretty, she does not run. When I was inspecting it earlier, this gave me hope that this car was actually being turned into some sort of time attack or autocross machine. Aftermarket on these is not cheap, but they do add performance and make them a beast. It looks like it's a pretty good starting point if it does run, which fingers crossed because it's been sitting for so long. I hope it's just a battery or something, but only Trav will be able to tell. Now for the interior. These seats, bolsters on BMWs get super worn, but I think I can bring this back. This shifter right here is aftermarket, obviously, and is one more thing I saw that makes me think that this was gonna become an autocross vehicle, and that's probably why this car actually got crashed. The driver just ran out of talent, because these cars don't, right? The wheel is actually in pretty surprising shape. Dash is in good shape, and although it looks like it's been ridden hard and put away wet, I think there's hope, you guys, to make a lot of money on this car if we do it right and we do it quick. So let's take this thing back to the shop and let Trav take a look at it and see what we're actually working with. I'm excited.
Actually kind of cool. What are you thinking, crack subframe?
Probably. They all are, aren't they?
Oh shit, dude, it's been done.
No way.
Look, I don't know if you guys can see this.
Structural damage where the subframe meets the body is a common problem on these cars, and with the M3 specifically, it's more of a when than an if it'll need to be reinforced. It's a repair that costs around $2,500, so having that taken care of is a huge win.
All right, it looks to me like probably this control arm is bent, as well as the strut body itself. In addition to that, for sure, this inner tie rod has some play. I think we should probably just go ahead and replace this whole corner.
Now, I think we ordered all the parts that we need to get this car back on the road, but there's a couple extras that's gonna make this M car extra spicy. Let me show you. First, here are all the parts for that front corner, but check these out, guys. These are takeoffs of a 911. It's gonna be a big brake kit. I've always wanted to see 911 brakes on an E46 M3, which these puny things are going away. Also, we were able to source some very lightly used FL5s from Apex, and these are good looking wheels. I mean, that's gonna look incredible. What are you doing?
Well, first things first, man, we should probably see if we can get this thing running.
True. Yeah, because if it doesn't run, well, then there's no reason that we should be doing any of this stuff, but fingers crossed. This guy's a magician, or a technician. They rhyme. All right, while Trav's doing that, real quick, here's why we love flipping BMWs. See, BMWs, especially M3s, are pretty overbuilt, so they're built to last. Parts are more expensive than regular BMWs, but because they're really enthusiast cars, when they're sorted, they sell for a premium.
While Brad professes his love for BMW, I got busy replacing the battery.
We should be able to get a premium for this thing.
Hey, don't waste some time, man. Keith, I got the battery. Let's see if this thing runs.
The moment of truth, baby. Oh. Ooh! Dude, it's running!
Sounds pretty good.
Yeah, it does.
I don't want to run it too long with this old oil, but honestly, sounds great.
Dude, that is a huge win, except there's no gas in it, but hey, well, 170,000 miles. This thing's just barely broken in. First step in many in the next 24 hours. The countdown starts now.
We start by removing the sway bar end link and the ride height sensor for the headlamps. Then separate the outer tie rod end from the steering knuckle. Remove the wheel speed sensor. And then I learned that the locking ring for the coilover was loose, forcing the coilover mount to do the steering instead of the upper strut bearing. I can only assume that the wheel was rubbing against the locking ring and spun it loose, but we'll never know for sure.
Okay.
We then remove the wheel bearing dust seal and the wheel bearing nut itself. Even though we have all new parts, we have to disassemble the wheel hub to be able to remove and reuse the heat shield for the brakes. Loosen and remove the lower chassis brace.
Woo!
Gross.
At least there's no rodents yet. These headers though.
With the brace removed, we uncovered that this M3, in addition to the coilovers and subframe reinforcement, also has a set of aftermarket headers, which is one of the best ways to add power to an E46 M3.
Headers make a big difference on this car. This thing probably rips. This is not the right tool. Oh.
We loosen and remove the inner tie rod, and remove it from the car as a complete assembly.
Well, this one might not be bent, but this is definitely wasted. It smells good too. Now remember guys, don't use pickle forks on anything you want to reuse.
Pickle forks are great tools for removing stubborn ball joints, but you will damage the rubber boots on them. Since we're replacing our entire control arm though, it's the most efficient way to get things apart. We remove the last few fasteners holding the control arm to the car, and then remove the brakes.
Dude, Trav, there's a bug.
What?
There's a bug.
Oh!
Oh, crusty. Ah!
Lastly, we remove the upper strut mount nuts and remove the entire front right suspension upright assembly from the car.
So it's taken Trav just a little over an hour to get this whole corner out of the car. So it kind of is like we're cooking with gas, but there's probably a lot more hidden features and quirks on this car that we don't know about.
In hindsight, removing the brake rotor, hub assembly, heat shield, wheel studs, and the bolt for the lower suspension bracket would have been easier on the car, but we managed. First, we removed the rotor.
Bearing sounds really good.
Then the wheel studs.
So two things. One, I should have done this on the car. And two, this is not the ideal tool to pull this hub assembly off. So safety squints engaged.
Yes, sir.
And using a kinda sketchy puller from probably Harbor Freight, we remove the wheel hub. With the hub assembly out of the way, we loosen and remove the heat shield.
Yes. Oh yeah, it's pretty banana there. I don't know if you guys can see that or not, but I think this lower mount is the majority of our problems. All right, so we got updates. Unfortunately, this new control arm is completely wrong. This probably fits like a ZHP or any other E46 that's a non-M but with sport suspension. They're completely different. I don't know if you guys can tell or not. Let me see if I can work it around. Let me see if I can put them like this. They're totally different. This is not gonna work. Namely, they're a different shape, and the M3 has a threaded insert in that ball joint. This one does not. So, with that said, what we can do is get the coilover reinstalled into the new knuckle, kind of lightly assemble everything on the front right of the suspension here, and while we're waiting for the right control arm to show up, which unfortunately isn't gonna be until tomorrow, let's see if these Porsche brakes that Brad bought actually fit the car.
We reassemble the coilover and fit it to the new knuckle, then get everything bolted back into the car. Next, we bolt in the new tie rod assembly,
Like a glove.
new wheel hub and bearing, and clean up the mounting surface of the brake rotor and install that as well.
So I'm not too stoked that these are rusted basically everywhere, but we're gonna get this thing on the road. We'll do a couple good hard stops and we'll see if these clean up. If they don't, down the road, we'll look at replacing these rotors with some fresh ones.
Then I fit and install the new brakes.
Okay,
Wow.
one Porsche brake. We still needs pads, but you know, we'll get there.
Guys, dreams really do come true. This first Porsche brake is on here and it went pretty well, I think.
Yeah, I mean, we're still missing the control arm, but
Ready to do 3 more?
yeah, let's do it. Let's go.
We swap the brakes on the other 3 corners of the car. At some point in this car's life, it must have had a big brake kit, seeing as the backing plates on all 4 sides had already been modified to fit aftermarket calipers.
I mean, that's brakes.
The next day.
So unfortunately, we burned a lot of time waiting for this new part here and, well, we had to get a little bit of sleep. So Trav, what are we up to?
We're gonna get this control arm installed, wrap up these brakes, make sure everything is torqued down, because some of the stuff we obviously couldn't torque without a control arm. Lock out the oil change really quick, and then it's time to move on to the detail.
Let go.
We start by installing the control arm to the subframe and the steering knuckle, then fitting a new thrust arm bushing. They make a tool for this, but they can be installed by hand. Then we reinstall the bolts and torque them down. Next, we reinstall the aftermarket wheel studs with a little bit of medium thread locker and torque them to spec, which in our case is 15 foot-pounds. We torque down the wheel bearing nut and bend the safety tabs into place. Finally, we reinstall the lower chassis brace and get ready to bleed the brakes. Just put a few liters of fresh .4 brake fluid in a pressure bleeder and let it do the hard work for you. Because these brakes were used, we ended up flushing about a half a liter through each caliper to make sure they were clean. Lastly, we give the poor thing a quick oil change. Start by removing the filler cap, dipstick, and oil filter. We replace the oil filter cap sealing ring as well as the O-ring and crush washer on the oil filter bolt, then head underneath and drain the oil. Because we don't know the condition of the engine, we take an oil sample that we'll send to Blackstone Labs for analysis. And once it's done draining, replace the drain plug with a new one. And then, because Brad asked nicely, I explain the parts required to do a 996 brake swap on your own M3.
Now, Brad doing what Brad does best, he was able to source this big brake kit off of a Porsche 911 996. And the parts consist of a set of 4 Porsche 996 calipers and brake pads, front and rear adapter brackets thanks to Rally Road, new brake lines, ZCP front rotors, which are the same big ones that came on the 05 through 06 competition package M cars, and rear 996 rotors. And I gotta say, Porsche brakes on an M car, it's kind of the best of both worlds. The only thing left is to bolt on these new wheels, throw some oil in it, and get to detailing. Brad, how are we doing on time?
Not great.
We install the new wheels,
Those rotors will clean up.
I don't know if you can tell how far that poke is, but we're gonna have to get it on the ground and see if it actually will fit. Oh boy.
lower the car, listen to Brad laugh like an idiot.
Look at that. Beautiful. Yes.
And torque the wheels to spec. Then we fill it up with the correct spec Liqui-Moly 10W60.
Dude, what are you doing?
This is Ceratec. I'm not usually a fan of any sort of additive for anything, but that 135 we saw like a 30-degree reduction in oil temperature running this stuff on the dyno. So since then, I don't know, seems to do a good job. It makes the oil smell horrible and look even worse, but I don't think it can hurt anything.
Well, for a high performance engine and a low performance driver like yourself, I think it's perfect. Ooh. So we have new corner, we have new brakes, we have new wheels, and it is all looking pretty dialed, but this exterior is beyond, well, it looks way worse than this. So we're gonna fire it up, back it out, and get to detailing. Yes, those look so good. So good. Yeah, okay. So as you can see here, this thing is pretty rough, but we have a plan. It has definitely been sitting for a while, but we are gonna bring it back to its glory days. The only thing is we're gonna have to use something that is really powerful to get all this grime and muck off of it. So this is gonna be a multiple step process, but we're gonna bring this thing back to the Munich masterpiece that it once was. It's time to hit the car with 30 seconds outdoor cleaner and a bucket of warm water and dish soap. First bath in 20 years. It's gonna strip any wax, if there is any, because I really doubt it, to get it ready for a full detail. A brush and a pressure washer are your friend for those stubborn areas. And while we work on the exterior, might as well hit the engine bay using the same method. Well, the exterior is looking a lot better, but now the engine bay. We had a rat taking up residence in here, and as you can see, there is actually some rat right there, right here. It's overall pretty crusty in here, but we're gonna do the same thing we did with the outside on the engine. Obviously put a towel here so there's no water in the air intake. But then once we get all this clean, roll it back inside and start with the detail. With a brush and some elbow grease, the engine is starting to look like an S54 again. It looks so good. Now I gotta say, now that it's back inside the shop, it actually looks pretty good. I mean, back here there was all that grime and it's actually pretty much all gone. But the problem here, guys, hear this? Yeah, this thing needs a clay. So what we're gonna do is take some paint cleaning clay, which looks like this, and also you need a spray wax or water, which we're gonna use this quick detailer. And all you have to do is spray it down and then use this clay to get rid of all that grime that's on top of the clear coat. And it's gonna sound a lot different than this in just a second. Now, because we're on such a time crunch, I'm actually gonna have our friend Esty do it so that I can start working on the headlights. After 20 years of road use, these headlights need, well, an update. And that's why we're going to use this ceramic headlight restoration kit. No tools required, so it's good for me. We're actually gonna make these lenses look a lot cleaner. And I'll show you compared to that one in just a second once I get this done. Guys, Trav actually put me on this task because it's so easy, even a 5-year-old could do it. Except they may actually do an even better job. But hey, A for effort. Now guys, the results are actually pretty ideal. As you can see, this is the refinished side. And then if we come over here, what a difference. This is going to light up the night like your future. Okay guys, so these side gills here, we're actually gonna paint them black. So I'm just gonna take them out real quick. Plus it'll help us detail a little bit around here. And then we'll get going to actually hitting this paint with a cut and a buff. Now for the detail. I got an orbital, I have some ultra cut compound and a cutting pad to be able to hit the car in sections. Then once we're done with that, we're gonna use a finishing pad and polish and make this thing shine like 20 years newer. Think of the cutting compound like a magic eraser that helps smooth out the rough and scratchy spots on your car. But this eraser is a bit rough, so it needs to be used carefully to make sure it doesn't scratch your car even more. Using an orbital, I apply light pressure and let the machine do most of the work. And by working in square sections, I make sure I don't miss a spot. And it helps get rid of all those deep scratches and makes the car butter smooth. Now that, well, the big scratches are all gone, the car might still look a little cloudy or hazy. So we cut the paint down and it is looking a ton better. Now we're gonna put on the polishing pad, some ultra finishing polish, and then after we get done with this second stage, stage 2, we're gonna hit it with some wax. This polishing compound is like a softer magic eraser. You use the orbital buffer again to rub this all over the car. Okay, as you guys can see, it is looking really good. Now we're gonna put on a little bit of wax just to protect the paint and really make it pop. Now we're hitting the hood with wax. It's like putting a superhero cape on your car. Vax on, vax off. And while I do the hood, I'm gonna have Esty watch the Extreme Clean, our engine video, so that then he knows how to do the engine. I'm gonna get Trav vacuuming the interior because that is the next thing we're gonna tackle. There she is.
Oh, wait, what was the first step?
Go watch the video. Video's up here if you guys wanna see it. As I was hitting the exterior paint and bringing it back to prime time, Esty was doing work on shining up that engine bay. Guess that video we made was a good one. And Trav, well, after recovering from putting on those brakes, got out the old sucker and started cleaning up the interior so we could see what exactly we needed to do. Still grinding? How do you like it?
Put a little elbow grease in.
Dang.
It's coming out nice and right, dude.
Wow, that looks awesome. So guys, we've pretty much finished up the outside detail. We're now gonna tackle the interior, starting with the seats. As you can see, this bolster is extremely worn, although now it's vacuumed, it looks pretty good. We're gonna tackle some of the places that is extra worn, starting with this bolster right here. Touch this up a little bit and maybe hit the back a little bit before we hit that parcel shelf. And since there's only about 5.5 hours left until D-Day, we gotta get to getting. So I'm cleaning the leather with just some light dish soap and water and buffing it out with a clean towel. Now, I'm hitting the whole bolster, since I found it's easier to hit a full panel than just spot touch the bad spots for the best results. The product dries quickly, and I've noticed for best results don't polish, but rather apply it in long sweeps from one crease to the next. And after hitting both the front seats, I was beyond impressed. Impressed how well the product worked, but also that I somehow didn't make it worse. All right, seats look awesome. Next up is the parcel tray. Trav already vacuumed it, so we just gotta get going with these index cards that I used to put notes on to pass high school math, but now we're gonna use them for something actually good. Now, I remove the speaker covers and the hooks, insert index cards between the rear shelf and pillars to protect them. And top tip, when applying the dye, put just enough on the applicator to spread the dye. Its consistency is kind of like water, and you don't want any to spill over into the shelf trenches. Ask me how I know. And if you hit the window with it though, well, it's water-based and will come off easily once it dries, with a little Windex.
How much fun was that?
If we make money, it'll be fun. That's the only way it's gonna be fun. We gotta make money so we can do mods on that FRS. Because otherwise, the channel ends.
What?
Yeah, you heard that right. Like, subscribe, and turn on that notification bell. Otherwise, the channel might end. And with a nice uniform coat, let it dry and hit it a couple more times to get it looking like new again.
How's it going?
It's a lot harder than I thought it was gonna be. My toothbrush thing keeps breaking off like this, so I can't get the back, but other than that, I mean, it's been fantastic. Oh. And once you go back to black with the parcel shelf, you'll never go back to that faded purple. I can guarantee it. We are getting down to the wire. Now, we have a few final touches to really make this thing sparkle, like some center caps, new roundel, and a couple other things, but then we're gonna go meet a professional photographer to get this thing ready to sell for a premium. So with that, let's get this thing dialed in because we're on crunch time. Hold on, are you scared? No? Man of confidence.
Ah, should have marked it first.
Nice work.
Almost like I knew what I was doing.
Almost. Looks to be like a junkyard hood, huh?
It's a junkyard car.
We pop in the new corner markers and fog lamp trim, and finally, it was time to take it for a test drive. And like that, with just a couple hours to spare, the car was finally back on the road for the first time in over a year. To say this first stress test wasn't a little bit stressful would be an understatement. But you guys, it felt so good to get this little M back into its natural habitat.
Drives okay.
Yeah. I'm digging it.
This gearbox is, the shifter's pretty aggressive, but
The suspension is aggressive.
hey man, we didn't pick that, That's the way it came, but
Yeah.
engine feels strong. These brakes are next level.
Yeah, and they look really good going down the road.
Oh my God, these feel good.
I think overall someone's gonna be really happy with this car.
I am really happy with this car. I kind of wish we just maybe we should just,
No, we gotta sell it. But it's cool that we brought this thing back from the dead. Now it's back on the road, and an enthusiast hopefully is gonna really enjoy this thing.
Yeah, someone is definitely gonna love this car. I mean, this thing is
It's the GOAT.
They're so good.
Yeah. And if the car passed Trav's sniff test, well then you know it's a really good car and it'll be time to sell. It's got some beans. Ooh, baby. And then it was time to meet the photographer.
What's up, dude? What's up, man?
Now, we had found some paperwork in the glove box that showed the big three had already been done. Rod bearings, rebuilt vanos, and a subframe reinforcement, which makes it so much easier to price higher and hopefully sell quickly. I got it listed on Friday, and on Monday, the new happy owner drove it off to the sunset. So let's add up what we had into the car after 24 grueling hours. Saving this car from rotting in a field cost us $12,500. After installing a new battery, which cost $170, and bringing the car back to life, we realized the car needed a full new front corner, which we were able to pick up everything like the control arm for $127.37, the tie rod, inner and outer, for $69.94, lower strut mount, $125, steering knuckle, $312.99, and wheel bearing and hub assembly for $145.29. All in, it's under $1,000, and thankfully that fixed the damage. Now, I got to fulfill a personal dream of putting 911 brakes on an M car, which we sourced for $1,200. And I gotta say, it really makes that car pop. Plus, it's a huge performance upgrade. The Apex FL5 wheels and tires we sourced on Craigslist for $1,500. Headlight restoration kit was $15. The leather recoloring balm, which worked fantastic by the way, $18. Parcel tray fabric dye, $15. Roundel and fog light covers, $55. Professional photos, $150. And they really helped that car sell quick. And having fun and spending time with friends while getting a now ideal M3 back on the road, priceless. After just 24 hours, all in, we were at $16,233.59. And after listing it on the internet, we had someone put a deposit on it over the weekend and drive off in their new to them ideal M3 for $23,500, over a $7,000 profit in just 24 hours. Not too shabby. Yeah, that actually was a ton of fun. And the cherry on top is we actually made some cash to be able to modify this little guy, this little Toyota FRS right here. And as you guys know, a lot of these enthusiast cars are getting a lot older, just like Trav and me. And so they need a little bit of rehab. And that M3 was in a field rotting away, and we were able to rescue it, and not only just rescue it, make it look so good and get another enthusiast in the cars. And hopefully they have many more years of enjoyment out of that M machine. Now, we're actually gonna be doing the exact same thing on this little Toyota. We're gonna turn this thing into a Super Slayer with some of that cash that we got. We're gonna do some mods like coils, maybe some type of blower, and maybe some different wheels. Although, I don't know, I kinda like these. Just kidding. So if you guys wanna see more of this type of content on the channel, some rehab or builds, let us know in the comments below. And also if you like this video, well, hit the like button, subscribe, turn on that notification bell, because we have a whole bunch more content coming at you. Like, we will see you next week with another video on this guy. I'm Brad, that's Trav, this is Ideal, and we'll see you next week. And promise me one thing, keep living the ideal lifestyle.